Good morning. Good morning. So wonderful to be with you all this morning. And I think we're going to start with a few moments of meditation. So I invite you to sit up, come into this moment, gently close your eyes, and allow yourself to just settle down. Let yourself tune to your own breath. Feel the gentle, natural rhythm of the breath flowing into your body. Take a moment to feel grateful for this incredible body we live in, for this incredible planet we live on, for the fact that the forests, trees, grasses, plants of the earth generate oxygen for us to breathe and cleanse the air of impurities, so that with each in-breath, our body is drawing in this miraculous, invisible nourishment offered by Mother Earth. Every breath you take in from this invisible air that Mother Earth generates feeds you. And miraculously, the body you're living in knows exactly how to extract the nutrition from the air without ever having to be told to do it or how to do it. But just take a moment to feel your inherent connection with Mother Earth and feel her nurturing maternal feeding coming to you in every single breath. And with each out breath, letting go of substances that are no longer serving you. So that in every single breath we take, throughout every single day we're alive on earth, we are receiving the blessings of Mother Earth and letting go of that which no longer serves us. On the in-breath, being nourished. On the out-breath, letting go. So just feel that sacred connection. And let yourself also feel the stability your body right now experiences because of the magnetic force of gravity emanating from the heart of the earth. It's like Mother Earth holding you safe and secure, stable. If we were on some other planet or on the moon, these bodies would be floating around. But on Earth, Mother Earth holds us close. So in every moment of every day, whenever you feel you've lost your connection, when you feel frightened or anxious, let yourself stop and return to this moment where you can feel directly the way that Mother Earth holds you and the way that Mother Earth feeds you. And then just let yourself feel the sweetness of each in-breath and each out-breath, the sensation that arises in the nostrils as the air gently flows across the skin in the entrance to the nostrils, like the soft, sweet, caressing breeze of summer. This too, always made available by Mother Earth. Feeling the stability of the body held in place by Mother Earth. The sacredness of the air Mother Earth feeds us, and the soothing quality of the breath gently flowing into the body and flowing back out of the body. Like the most precious, soft, caressing breeze you've ever felt, happening in every moment, in every breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Listen to the sacred sound that arises in the silence, and the sounds of the earth and the environment. And let's take just a few moments together in silence, feeling our connection to the earth, feeling Mother Earth's nourishment, hearing the sacred sounds, breathing in, breathing out. In a moment, I'll ring the gong 3 times. As I do, just allow yourself to receive the sound of the gong, subtly noticing how, like every sound in the universe, it arises out of nothing, exists for a period of time, changes, and passes away into nothing. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Feeling the magnificent preciousness of this body we live in. Remembering always how it is held secure and fed by our Mother Earth. Breathing in, breathing out. When it feels comfortable to you, very gently and slowly begin to open the eyes. Just let the environment around you come back into focus slowly and gradually. Namaste. Good morning again. What a lovely morning. What a beautiful time to be with you all. It's been quite a while since I've been with Unity by the Shore, one of my favorite places. And of course, this morning I was realizing, since it's a beautiful Sunday morning, how much I've always enjoyed getting in my car early on a Sunday morning and driving down the parkway and coming to see all of you in Neptune. Neptune. And so things have changed and they keep changing. And that is really, at its core, one of the primary teachings of the Buddha, that things are changing and they keep changing. Sometimes they change in a way we like. Sometimes they change in a way we don't like. So that our challenge in life is to begin to loosen the grip that our own mind has on our happiness. And one of my teachers many years ago, many of you probably heard me say this, but one of the most profound things I ever heard, he said to me, you know, our human mind thinks that its job is to be frightened. And it's like our own mind is constantly saying to us, if I'm not frightened, you're not safe. And I was thinking this morning, in reflecting on that, about the great Indian master Meher Baba, who lived from 1894 to 1969 and was really the inspiration behind Bobby McFerrin's song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. Because Mayor Baba was once asked, probably back in the 40s or 50s, if you could encapsulate your entire philosophy, your teaching, into one short phrase, what would it be? Now, he'd written volumes and volumes and volumes, like thousands of pages about the spiritual path. Some of the most insightful writing I have ever, insightful and comprehensive writing that I have ever encountered. Meher Baba's discourses, I mean, these wonderful books. But when asked if he could distill his teachings down to one simple phrase, it was, don't worry, be happy. Now that can seem, like your mind will say, yeah, easy for you to say. Or easier said than done. Or isn't that nice? Yes, don't worry, be happy. Yeah, you're not living on planet Earth, buddy. Well, I remember being challenged on that many, many years ago by a woman when I was an undergraduate at the University of South Florida in Tampa in the early 1970s. And she said, that is the most ridiculously trite and stupid phrase I've ever heard. And I said, well, it isn't really intended to be trite and stupid. It's intended to invite us to embark on what may be the most difficult challenge for human beings, to not worry. If we have a mind that thinks that its job is to be worried, oy. And how does that interplay with the concept of opening our heart? And I thought, well, how did I come up with that? That's, by no means a new title for today's talk. Opening our hearts and embracing change. Why? Because opening our hearts is the only way to be happy. And it's always available to us. That's the interesting thing about these teachings, that we come to understand that who we are in our deepest core is essentially joyful. It is light, it's love, it's peace. That's who we truly are. So it's always within us. It can't disappear. It can't go away. It only seems to go away when our mind interposes itself with a lot of fear and doubt and worry and agitation and I got so much to do. I got so much to be concerned about. I'm just a wreck. That doesn't mean that you've lost your inherent state of love and peace. When we sit in meditation, when you get that feeling of, oh God, this is so beautiful. Like the other night in my Wednesday night meditation class, one of the students said, when we meditate, I feel so good. How do I keep it going? That's really the challenge. The challenge on the spiritual path is not really how to have peace and love and joy, because those are all inherent in us. They're installed in us. They're standard equipment in every human being. It's just that our mind gets in the way and we forget. And we get into this tangle of mind stuff. So how do we open our heart? The first thing to do is to work on quieting the mind. That doesn't mean stop thinking. That means stop being attached to your thoughts. I always reflect on wonderful moments I've seen a number of times when the Dalai Lama has been asked, Your Holiness, do you have the same kind of troublesome thoughts the rest of us have? Like, do you get angry or, He said, oh yes, I'm just a normal human being. And so people will say, what do you do about it? He said, oh, I just don't pay attention to those thoughts. Well, that's a little confusing in itself because, in one sense, part of really deep meditation practice is about paying attention to your thoughts so that you see how they're creating your unhappiness. You see how they're generated, where they come from, how your mind makes choices to be unhappy, how your mind makes choices to be angry, how your mind makes a choice to be frightened because, of course, it thinks it's that's its job, right? I came across this wonderful quote from Christopher Isherwood. Christopher Isherwood was a wonderful British author who wound up living in the United States, I think in the 40s and 50s, and was very connected with Ramakrishna and the Ramakrishna Vedanta Society, and wrote beautiful books and helped with translations, beautiful translations of the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, working with a Swami named Swami Prabhavananda. Anyway, Christopher Isherwood says this. Just close your eyes for a moment and just take this in and see if it feels familiar. He says, a few times in my life, I've had moments of absolute clarity when for a few brief seconds, the silence drowns out the noise, and I can feel rather than think. And things seem so sharp and the world seems so fresh. It's as though it had all just come into existence. I can't seem to make these moments last. I cling to them, but like everything, they fade. But I have lived my life on these moments. They pull me back into the present, and I realize that everything is exactly the way it was meant to be. Exactly the way it was meant to be. It's like that wonderful concept when I've shared many times, my guru, Neem Karoli Baba, used to say, it's all perfect. Can't you see it's all perfect? Very hard for us human beings to see it's all perfect. And within that perfection, another teacher of mine used to call it perfect imperfection. In other words, there are things on this planet that make our hearts hurt. Either things that happen to us personally, or things that happen to our loved ones, or our fellow human beings, or our planet itself. There are things that make our hearts hurt. And one of the things we can take note of is the fact that when our hearts hurt, that's telling us something. Either telling us that our mind is creating problems, or reminding us that we are all connected, that we are connected to the planet we live on. And when we're not taking care of each other and we're not taking care of our planet, things happen that are problematical. And so, in that perspective, from that perception, when you start to see things that cause your heart to hurt, that's part of the perfection too. And if that inspires you to want to help other human beings, to want to change the way you think, to want to change the way you live, that's all part of the perfection. So when we say it's all perfect, it doesn't mean that we're supposed to leave it the way it is. It means that within what's happening right now are potential lessons and teachings. You know, it's interesting. Before we started this morning, I was chatting with Tom before Zoom sort of went haywire. We were having such an interesting chat. He asked what I'd been up to in the last year and a half. Well, um, I really haven't gone anywhere. And I've become very familiar with Zoom, so that every week I'm doing a Zoom class on meditation on Wednesday nights. Many Sundays I'm doing presentations for churches and spiritual centers. And it's like I don't go anywhere. So it's sort of been helping me to embody the teaching, be here now, because I don't go anywhere. And it's always the same moment. And there's been a certain beauty to that. And I said to Tom, one of the things that I first noticed when the pandemic and shutdown first happened was the extraordinary quiet. It was like when there were no cars or trucks on the roads and no trains and no background noise. We started to realize how much ambient sound there is for many of us in heavily populated areas, and no planes in the sky. And oh my goodness, you could start to hear the birds singing. And then Tom pointed out how the air cleared. When there weren't cars and airplanes, the level of pollution reduced dramatically. And we started to feel this freshness in nature. In one sense, it was a reminder of how quickly nature can regenerate itself. It's like if you stop polluting a river, it almost immediately starts coming back to life. So these things are always possible, but the potential for life and healing, always present. And then we started to notice we'd go out for a walk every day. Oh my goodness. Fascinating how in the local neighborhood, there were families who were home during the day together, playing in the yard, going for walks together. And I started to realize that there were extraordinary blessings available to us in this very difficult circumstance. Now, I don't want to ignore the fact that an extraordinary number of people were dying, and an extraordinary number of people were sick. Extraordinary number of people were frightened. Extraordinary number of people were losing their employment, losing their businesses. I'm not saying that those events could be joyful. I'm simply saying that this is the nature of the world of form. We sometimes get into the thinking that if we just get our spiritual thing right, this will turn into heaven. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. Because I noticed that last week you had a presentation called, I think it was called What is Karma? And it's an interesting question, and I wish I'd had time to listen to that presentation. But to me, what karma is basically the balancing of opposites. The balancing of opposites, which is always happening in the physical universe. It's happening in your life. And so that karma, that which is sometimes somewhat inaccurately referred to as bad karma, is simply the balancing of some opposite experience. It's really like the image of that thing that a lot of executives used to have on their desks, which was the 5 metal balls hanging from strings on a wooden frame. And if you pull out one ball on this end and let it go, one ball on that end will pop out. You pull out 2 balls on this end and let them go, 2 balls on that end will pop out. And these are all simple demonstrations of laws of physics. It's a law of physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That's karma. And so I tied that together this morning as I was reflecting on this talk with a memory of something that the comedian George Carlin said many years ago. And he was talking about our abuse of our planet that we live on. And he said, if we don't stop abusing the environment, he said, someday this earth is going to shake us off like a bad case of fleas. And now that was funny and it was poignant. So to all you fellow fleas, I think we better start taking better care of our earth and our bodies and each other, taking better care of each other. Earlier today, I was reading Thich Nhat Hanh, a beautiful statement where he said, I've been a monk for 75 years. And he said, I've seen never that there is any higher religion or any higher practice than brotherhood and sisterhood. No belief system, no organization, simply brotherhood and sisterhood. The Dalai Lama, who always says, my religion is loving kindness. It's remembering that we're all connected. It's remembering the importance of that connection. It's remembering our connection to our own body and the miraculous nature of this body we live in. You know, during the meditation, I was endeavoring to bring that out, to think of the fact that in this body, we are inhaling this invisible substance called air. And this body is extracting from this invisible air thousands of nutrients that we need for our moment-to-moment survival. Our lungs know how to extract that from the invisible air, put it into substances that our body recognizes, pass it into the bloodstream, and as our heart pulses, the blood pulses through the body and feeds every cell in the body. And you think nothing miraculous happens in your life? Every moment is a miracle. Every moment. I was thinking about listening to that beautiful song, Gratitude, that we began with. Remembering that a number of years ago, I was invited to participate in a conference in Houston, Texas. And it was 700 social workers, psychologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, and clergy. Fascinating group. And along with me, two other presenters were two psychologists from the University of California at Davis. And they had been studying gratitude, the psychological effects of gratitude. Gratitude, just being thankful. Fascinating. What they had found in their research, and they'd been working with the Dalai Lama. Now, the Dalai Lama was fascinated by their research, and he said, well, if we're going to work together, you have to meditate. So you have to go to a 3-week meditation course, and then we'll talk. So they did that. Then neither one of them had ever done any meditation previously. So that was very interesting. But one of the things that they pointed out was that, you know, as a social science researcher, what you often do is you decide you want to research something where you look at all the literature of the things, the people who have researched it previously, what they've come up with. And they said this fascinating thing happened with gratitude. They couldn't find any previous research on gratitude in the whole history of psychology. The mind state of gratitude had not been considered important. They actually said that joy was also sort of low on the totem pole for psychological research. And all of that was very fascinating. What does that mean? But what they found out was something very interesting, that their beginning research seemed to indicate that it is impossible to be grateful and depressed in the same moment. Isn't that interesting? Impossible. Like the mind can't do those two things at once. And that in itself suggests that one of the things we do to keep ourselves in that state of peace and love and joy is to begin each day with gratitude. What am I grateful for? Notice the beauty around you. Hear the beauty in the environment. Smell the beauty in the environment. Shortly after that conference, I was walking through the woods near where we live. And we often encounter deer in those woods. And they're such beautiful animals, so sweet, so innocent, so pure, and have learned to be so wary of human beings. So encountering the deer is always an interesting experience. I found myself singing a song to this deer that I encountered. It was a mother deer, and she had three babies nearby. And when she saw me coming, she looked up with kind of like, is this trouble? As mothers tend to do. And I just looked in her eyes and I just stood there as peacefully as I could. And I spontaneously began to sing her a song. And the words of the song were simply, thank you for all your sweetness. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all your beauty. Thank you. Thank you. And it just went on and on. Thank you for all your sweetness. Thank you for all your beauty. Thank you. I was just thanking her for her presence on earth. And I saw her ears start to sort of, this is different. This human being is serenading me. And it was like she almost like invited her babies to come closer. And so very often now, ever since when we walk through the forest, we just sing that song of gratitude and thanks to the deer we encounter. And they literally seem to like it. I mean, they'll stop and take it in. It's very, very interesting. Gratitude, gratitude, opening our hearts, opening our consciousness. You know, there was a statement, I think, in the reading from the Daily Word about I'm the one who has the control or dominion over my own consciousness. I'm making choices all the time, whether I'm going to be angry, whether I'm going to be frightened, whether I'm going to be selfish or generous or cranky or kind. And the thing is that it's the behaviors and thoughts that acknowledge our unity, our oneness, our connection to each other. Those are the ones that lead us to happiness. And the behaviors and thoughts that don't acknowledge our oneness and our connection to each other, for instance, anger, hatred, jealousy, greed, fear, those are the ones that create suffering. So it isn't even a moral issue. The question is, do you want to be happy or not? And do you want to be a presence in the world that can really offer healing to the world by acknowledging our oneness, by embracing brotherhood and sisterhood and loving kindness, and embracing change? That's tricky because, once again, there are changes we like and changes we don't like. If you think about it, sometimes we're all in a dither because things won't change the way we want them to, or another human being won't change the way we want them to, or the weather won't change the way we want it to. So sometimes we want change that isn't happening, and then something changes that we don't like, and we're not happy about that. And all the Buddha was saying was change is the essence of life in the world of form. You can't change that. Change is the essence of life in the world of form. Impermanence, nothing is permanent. These bodies aren't permanent. These thoughts aren't permanent. These experiences aren't permanent. And instead of being in the predicament of always trying to keep the high going, actually tuning to the inner high that is always going is the solution. So that when you're having your favorite meal and you've looked forward to it for weeks and weeks and weeks, we're going to go to that special restaurant I love, and I'm going to have the so and so, and oh, and you're in the middle of it, and it's like, oh, yum, 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 yum. How do I keep this experience going? How soon can we come back? And you lose the moment, you lose your presence in the moment, so that you start to realize that everything in the world of form is like breathing in and breathing out. You breathe in, you have the delicious experience, and you let go. You breathe in, you have another delicious experience, and you let go into the emptiness. That's the way you start to maintain balance in life, by opening your heart to other human beings. It's a great quote from Pema Chodron, one of my favorite teachers. She says, the only reason we don't open our hearts and minds to other people is that they trigger confusion in us that we don't feel brave enough or sane enough to deal with. To the degree that we look clearly and compassionately at ourselves, we feel confident and fearless about looking into someone else's eyes. When you stay comfortable in your own being, you're not as agitated by other human beings. You realize that they can't really affect that place inside you, your center. Here's another one. This is a nice one from Ram Dass. He said, the root of fear is a feeling of separateness within oneself. Once that feeling of separation exists, then you process everything from either inside or outside of that model. The transformative process of spiritual work is reawakening to the innocence of going behind that model of separation that one has, that cuts you off, that made you a tiny little fragile somebody. A lot of the power comes from freeing ourselves of our own fragility. When you look at the social structures, you see how much is based upon the feeling of fragility within the human condition, and that's based on fear. You say, I'm afraid of that person. What you mean is you are afraid of being socially shamed by that person. When you are socially shamed, it hurts. But here we still are. You're afraid of violence. And then if violence happens, sure, it's scary, painful. And then behind it, here we are. I think that fear often feeds upon itself, and we're mostly afraid of the fear. And that gives it greater power. But ultimately, we are afraid because we feel vulnerable. So the trick is to learn to not feel vulnerable, in the sense that we start to realize we're not vulnerable in the ways we think we are. And I'm reminded that when Stephen Levine used to talk about fear, he would mention that famous phrase from Franklin Delano Roosevelt, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And Stephen would say, let's not even fear fear. So that you start to see fear as another state of mind coming and going. Our mind thinks its job is to be frightened. Okay, it's doing its job. Very interesting. Aha, I see all the fear, and here we are. So we don't know, we are in the process of cultivating what is sometimes in the Buddhist tradition called don't know mind, like Suzuki Roshi, Shunryo Suzuki, who wrote Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. He said, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. And so he suggested that on the spiritual path, we cultivate beginner's mind. Always be a beginner. Begin again every day. Let it be new. Don't get stuck in thinking you've got it handled. Be a student every day. Listen every day. Observe every day. Hear, grow. Allow for new perspectives on things. Learn to keep your heart open in hell. Fascinating practice. Tomorrow, I'm going to visit a friend at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York. That could be considered for many a hell realm. How do we keep our heart open there? I have several friends right now who are sitting at the bedsides of dying parents. The best thing they can offer is an open heart. Ultimately, the best thing we can offer to ourselves, to our families, to our friends, and to our world is a quiet mind and an open heart. To be able to be in the presence of whatever's happening, to understand that no matter how good it is, it's going to change. And also, no matter how bad it is, it's going to change. And the opposites will keep swinging back and forth. But inside, in the heart, this is the place of balance. This is the place of connection. This is the realm of love. And that is home. Okay, here we are. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and come back into this moment. As we together send this offering out into the universe. May all beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Or as we say at the end of the Wednesday night classes, may all beings everywhere, including you, be happy. I thank you all for joining me this morning. Thank you all for coming together. Thank you all for keeping this beautiful community at Unity by the Shore intact through all of the ups and downs and warps and woofs of this previous year and a half. Thank you for keeping your hearts open, and blessings to all. Namaste.
Thank you so much, John. That was extraordinary. We're so blessed to have you with us today.
Me too.
I started to write things down when you began speaking. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to write down everything. So I stopped. Thank you. And now our affirmative prayer. I am in love at one and at peace with myself, others, and the whole of creation. And now our guardian angel, James, will stop recording our service.